President Obama has ordered 350 more of our troops to Baghdad. That brings the total number of our troops in Iraq to just over 1,200. But Kurdish officials say the Obama administration isn't doing enough to provide them with advanced weapons with which to defeat the Islamic State. Joining us now, retired four-star Army General, former Army Vice Chief of Staff, General Jack Keane. He's chairman of the Institute for the Study of War and Fox News military analyst. General, let's start with the president's contradictory statements in Estonia, as he said that the approach would be to degrade and destroy the enemy, the Islamic State, and then recanted and said that the strategy was to make it a manageable problem. What in the world is going through the commander-in-chief's mind?
Well, in looking at that, the only thing I can come to is that he really doesn't know what to do and how to do it. And that level of uncertainty still to this day, is reflected in the contradictory statements and the ambiguous statements starting back, with last Thursday without a strategy. And Lou, it's unfathomable and at the least irresponsible that we sit here after 3 years of watching ISIS deliberately and methodically rise in Syria, take one town and one village and one city after another and move into Iraq and take most of northern Iraq. And we sit here today without a goal and an objective what to do about it, with no strategy in support of it, and certainly with no comprehensive military campaign to support the strategy. That is what is taking place.
And then, with apparent ease and total conviction, Defense Secretary Hagel articulated very clearly the approach that one would have expected the President of the United States to enunciate. Yeah. What is that disconnect, and what are we to take from that?
Well, I think the Pentagon and Central Command Headquarters in Tampa, Florida, which has responsibility for this region, like all of our intelligence services, similar to the Department of State, they have been tracking ISIS for all of these 3 years. They are conversant with this organization. And also, they develop plans as to what to do about it in various stages of its development. So I'm absolutely convinced they know what to do about it, and I think that's why that conversation by the Secretary of Defense or by the Chairman of Joint Chiefs comes out so easily. We need to destroy it, and this is some of the things we would have to do. That's not a total strategy. It's more a goal, and it certainly isn't a campaign plan, but it's reflective of a body of work that they've already done.
As you say, a goal, not a strategy, but I have to give Vice President Biden credit for communicating the outrage that nearly all Americans surely must feel at the murder of 2 American journalists by the Islamic State, at the support of Iran that created a third of our casualties in Iraq, and whose sponsorship of state terror continues. Why in the world have we not heard a president speak so forcefully, directly, and mean what he has said?
Well, I think, and others have commented on it, this activity of ISIS so goes against the narrative that he's convinced himself of. One, we're going to get out of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and certainly 2, we're not going to get involved in any more wars in the Middle East, and 3, the world is actually becoming a safer place and Al-Qaeda is decimated. Mm-hmm. The harsh reality is that is not the truth of the matter. And he has difficulty adjusting to this. This is less about the government of the United States. This is more about a single person, the President of the United States, and his dilemma with himself over adjusting to the harsh reality of this world and what's taking place and what we must do about it.
And Vladimir Putin is making the world all the more difficult, not only for this president, but for millions of people, most in Eastern Europe, and prospectively Estonia, where the president was before arriving in Wales. Vladimir Putin has been effectively told that he can march where he will, the president today assuring the Estonians, but doing so without, at least to this point, the public support of the NATO nations. What do you make of where we're headed with Vladimir Putin?
Well, I'm very concerned about it, and you and I have had a number of discussions about it. Certainly, annexation of Crimea, his desire to take part of certainly eastern Ukraine, the fact he's interested in Moldova, and then when it comes to the Baltic states, which are protected by Article 5 of NATO, I clearly believe he would use unconventional operations in the primary Russian minority provinces close to the border to repeat what we have seen in eastern Ukraine and blame it on the separatists that exist there and their desire to be closer to Russia than it is to the sovereign state of one of the Baltic nations. I think, Lou, he's willing to put at risk NATO and force its collapse, which to him is checkmate, because the fact of the matter is NATO and the United States forced the collapse of the Warsaw Pact and the sort of Soviet Union. So to stop that, if that is really what is in his mind, and certainly he has demonstrated it probably and likely is, we need to put some permanent troops in those countries. Listen, the president deserves credit for going there today and speaking forcefully about NATO and U.S. action there to defend these countries. That needs to be done. But Putin has heard this rhetoric so many times before, I don't think it makes any sense to him anymore. It's actions that only are going to grab his attention. Put troops in there permanently, guarantee that we will fight to protect those countries. That'll send a loud message to him and also make him perk up and pay attention to NATO.
General Jack Keane, thanks so much.
Good talking to you, Lou, as always.